So better watch out. A Christmas horror comedy. It is infinitely better the less you know about it.
Welkom bij Filmhoek. Vandaag hebben we te gast Chris Peckover, de regisseur van de geweldige horrorcomedy Better Watch Out. I'm happy that you're here. Welcome. The first question that we have is, how did you get involved in this wonderful project?
So I was actually approached as just the director many years ago. It took a while. So the original script, if you can believe it, was a way darker thing.
Wow.
It bordered on like torture porn.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, like I think that, you know, there's been some of those movies in that genre that I've really enjoyed, but I I didn't feel like I was going to be able to go there with this, so I kind of suggested a big rewrite where we just totally shift the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And also the twist happened like an hour into the movie, and I pushed it way sooner because I thought the potential of what could happen after the twist was actually way more interesting than before the twist.
I'm glad you did, yes.
Apologies to your listeners who have no idea what twist I'm talking about. I shouldn't have even mentioned it, but it's really hard to talk about this movie without singers.
They should go and buy the film, so we're not spoiling anything
exactly.
here.
So I did a sizable rewrite with the original screenwriter's blessing, and he dug the new direction, and so it went from this, you know, like clever twist, but like really dismal torture porn afterwards, and we kind of flipped it on its head and made it fun. I could say, maybe I can.
Yeah. It's definitely, like a morbid kind of black humor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think the closest movie tonally I can think of is like American Psycho, where it's not horror comedy like splatter gore. It's horror comedy like, oh my god, I can't believe something's about to happen. Yeah. And it's funny but also disturbing.
Yeah, I like the fact that in the behind the scenes you reference Home Alone, because that was the first thing that when I watched the movie, like, this is Home Alone meeting the good son.
Yep.
Which is the same actor, by the way, so maybe that's kind of funny.
I think those movies were back to back too.
Are they? They could be. They could be. Yeah. He's pretty younger.
I think.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but So the movie suddenly became this like horror comedy, psychological thriller, and we cast for months and months. I must have read 200 boys.
Wow.
We shot in Australia, so I was auditioning kids in Australia. I was auditioning kids in the U.S. We kind of did this giant search, and one of the last people we came across was Levi Miller, who. In hindsight, the role that we wrote for a 12-year-old to play was pretty stupid because
it is.
It required such a giant range. You have to be charming.
Yeah.
Vicious.
You have to be
cold, you have to be funny, mischievous.
Yeah.
We have to care about them. You know, like it's kind of everything, and he has to be sexual as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So most people I would audition would be good at a fraction of that, but they couldn't get all of it. And different people would be good at different parts of the spectrum of what we needed for Luke. And then Levi came along, and he was the only person who hit everything. In fact, I think of every single person we auditioned, no one else was able to figure out how to be sexual as a 12-year-old without it feeling really uncomfortable for kids to watch.
Yeah.
And he found a way to make it kind of funny and charming, and also disturbing. Like,
it's actually one of the questions that I have. So let me jump into there. Like, Olivia and Levi, they're the cornerstone of this movie. These two characters carry the whole movie. You have to like them both. They have this arch deploying between them, so they need on-screen chemistry. But individually, those two need to be individually very strong as well. Well, you finally found Levi Miller, who has this enormous range, and I compared him to a young Leonardo DiCaprio in Basketball Diaries. It's like...
That's exactly what I would say.
Amazing. Truly amazing. Yeah. And the first time I saw him was in Penn, and it's not really that broad of a role, but I already had the feeling like there is something special with this kid. He can act. He can definitely act.
He's got the eyes.
Yeah. But then you have Olivia's character, Ashley, and they have this initial bond, and they need to gel on screen as well. How did you prepare them together? Because that's such an integral part as well.
So, and by the way, Olivia was the first person I cast. She
magnificent.
So I had seen her in The Visit.
Yes.
And I thought, and also I realized like she was kind of like still on the child side of teenagerism in that movie, and I realized that like I was going to be catching her right when she was kind of like in that transition.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would be her first movie where she would be sexualized, and so that was a big conversation we had. She was like, "Don't worry, I'm fine. I was all like, I don't want to introduce you to the world this way and be responsible for everyone like trying to cast you for all the like and it was I felt like the protective dad, like
which you have to be as a director as well, of course.
She was so easy and so comfortable and so hardworking. You know who she reminds me of is like she has a way better range. Well, I don't want to bad mouth another actor. She reminds me of like a Linda Hamilton. She wants to star in like physically demanding movies.
Yeah.
She wants to do like Cliffhanger, the female Cliffhanger. Like that's what she wants to be. Where she's also incredibly good at drama. I love her.
Yeah, she was really really good.
The luck I had with the chemistry on the movie was, if you remember, Ed Oxenbould, who is the best friend,
and his brother and her brother in The Visit, yeah.
Exactly. So they already knew each other, and I remember when everyone arrived in Sydney, one of the very first things that happened was Olivia came up to me, and she was like, actually, I think Ed and Olivia both. They were so cool. They were like, we're worried for Levi because we already have this really close bond. We've known each other for years now, and we don't want him to feel like the third wheel.
Yeah.
So we're not sure what to do. We're thinking of just inviting him everywhere with us and just bonding and going to get ice cream and going to the beach together. And that's what they did. I literally didn't have to do anything. Their instincts were already so good that
in tune.
The three of them needed to be a core. Yeah. That they went off and were hanging out constantly before the movie. So by the time we were on set, there was this
natural chemistry.
This bond.
Yeah. Wow.
I love when actors probably are working on a subconscious level and doing things to better what's going to happen on screen.
Yeah.
Hilariously, in the second half of the movie, when the friction was happening between Levi and Olivia, I found them sometimes having like really, really petty, obviously not real, like friction between them.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that on a subconscious level, like that was at play there. That they knew that things needed to shift for them. So it's pretty funny.
That's cool. Yeah. That was actually one of the questions that I had, that Ed Oxenbould and Olivia DeJong knew each other already, and if that was in any way helpful for you. But you answered that already. Yes, it was immensely helpful.
It was so good, especially because with a movie about teenagers, usually kids and teens don't get to hang out with other kids and teens their age on set. Usually they're like, I'm the kid in the movie, and you've got all these like child actors who are surrounded by adults a lot on set, and it was really nice for them to have each other and be the stars of the movie and to have that bond, because I feel like they made the movie their own, and that I'm a fun guy. I liked going with where their natural energies went, and I can't say enough how the tone of the movie was really dictated by their chemistry.
Well, it definitely worked. It's wonderful to see how they grow. It's so difficult not to not to tease anything, but how they grow in the movie. Let us put it that way. Yeah.
Just so your listeners understand, there's something that happens early on in the movie, and we're dancing around it right now.
Yes. Yeah.
You just have to see the movie to know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But
your first movie was undocumented, and you already touched on torture porn. That borderlines on torture porn. It's really grim. It's really nasty. What did you take from that movie into this movie that made this movie
That's
easier?
That's a really good question. So, and by the way, it's funny. I went into Undocumented knowing that there was torture in it.
Mm-hmm.
I desperately tried to stay away from torture porn. So for me, torture porn is where it's like, look at the tendon as it's getting cut, and oh my god, it's awful, and like look at her eyeball hanging off of her face. So Undocumented didn't revel in the torture. If anything, like when it was happening, it was like the cameraman would pull away and look elsewhere. Yeah. So it's funny because you're right. A lot of people say it's torture porn. I would say it's torture.
Torture, yes.
But I wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't reveling in it. But you're now seeing why I was afraid to do the original version of Better Watch Out, because Undocumented. I'm very proud of the movie, but for every one person who was like, "Oh my God, that was a very powerful experience for me,"
mm-hmm.
there were 3 or 4 people who were like, "That was too much. I wasn't able to handle that." Or I didn't enjoy it. That's not an enjoyable type of film for me. So I learned that. Another big thing I learned was, I come from a place where I think art is very powerful in that you can have social messages
mm-hmm.
and social commentary.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of horror has been doing that recently, especially with Get Out.
Yeah.
And I went into Undocumented kind of trying to do what Get Out did, but there was a crucial mistake I made, which is, I think if you're going to make a movie about a social topic or something taboo, you can't make it the text. You have to make it the subtext.
Yes.
Because I find that a lot of people, especially on IMDb, they'll rate Undocumented without ever having seen it, and they'll say like, "Oh, this is just liberal propaganda," or liberals will watch it and say, "This is preaching to the that you shouldn't hurt illegal immigrants." So the movie kind of got sandwiched between people who already felt like it had an agenda and people who were like, "Yeah, I agree. Why make me watch this movie then?" So, so the biggest lesson I learned from Undocumented was if I want to have a dialogue with the audience, I can't be obvious about it. So with Better Watch Out, I had a full dialogue, but it was the subtext of the movie, so it doesn't feel like you're being preached to or talked to about it. It feels like you're watching a really fun movie, and
it's
you
there
have
to
have
explore.
a conversation with people afterwards, saying, "Isn't that funny? It's weird. All the guys in the movie kind of treated Olivia differently. The dad was a little bit like inappropriate with her at times. The boyfriend was a little bit possessive with her.
Yeah.
Levi certainly does his thing with her. The ex-boyfriend was kind of treating her like an object.
Yeah.
And even Ed.
Even Ed, he was eyeballing her.
The sweetest guy.
Yeah.
Never really tries to stop things when they're happening. And also, like, there's a bit of a savior complex where there's a moment where he's stepping in finally to save her, and he kisses her on the cheek, almost like a Mario saving the princess.
Yeah.
So I got to talk about toxic masculinity in the movie.
Yeah.
We just never said anything.
Yes, true. Yeah.
So I think, and the response I've gotten from Better Watch Out has been positive. So I think that's the way to go. It's it's okay to have it's okay to talk about social issues. And Get Out did the same thing.
And put it in the
they
subtext.
Didn't make it overt racism. It was kind of like the subtext of everything.
Yeah.
And that's more fun because when the audience feels like they're discovering the conversation, then they want to engage.
Yes. It's the same with The Babadook, also an Australian film.
Yeah.
About postpartum grief, the things that your mind go... Yeah, that's the kind of horror that I like, that there is stuff to discover. It's not in your face.
When The Babadook came out, I was so pissed because not only is it a movie about grief, but it also goes through the 5 stages of acceptance. If you rewatch it, basically 20% is about this, 20% is about that, and it kind of... And there's a movie, in fact, my next movie it's an entirely different movie, but subtext-wise, it's pretty similar. So
cool.
I was pissed when it came out because I was like, everyone's going to spot me. I think unless anyone hears this interview, nobody will know.
Only the people in Holland and Belgium will know.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So it's funny. It's like, you stole my idea. No, you stole my subtext. It's a whole different ballgame now.
When I watched The Babadook, I was myself in a very dark place. I lost my brother 4 years ago. Just like a thunderstruck. And it was, for me, so recognizable. And the guy with whom I was working on his independent horror movie at that stage, we were talking about it. And he had the same issue with his father. And it was like, that was the moment that him and I, instead of me being an employee for him, like, we became friends. It was over a horror film. It's kind of stupid, just on Skype. Right. And so at Oxenbould, at Oxenbould, you created a wonderful support character. It's, to me, Ed's character gives Lucas's character a lot more depth and range. Was that a conscious choice?
Thank you so much. Because, Ed's character in the original script was in the very first scene, in that bedroom scene, and then he never showed up again.
Oh.
And to me, that was probably the biggest shift that I made in the rewrite, was to keep him. Because I think without Ed, the movie would feel a lot more dire and hopeless. There's a levity that he brings to it, and it's also like a bit of a sounding board that he brings.
Yes. Yeah,
he's weirdly like the window into the second half of the movie. It's like we're watching through his eyes.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
yeah.
That was... I'm glad you're talking about that, because I was very proud of the effect that Ed had on the movie.
It's a bit of a confessional, because when you're teenagers, you see shit happen in high school, and you want to engage the people that you see that are bullying somebody else, but you're afraid to step in because you're afraid that you get clobbered. And when I watched...
So you're like, this is my best friend. Maybe, I don't want to hurt my friendship with him.
Also, yeah. So, there was... Like I said, it was a bit of a guilt trip watching him. Like, oh yeah, well, I stood idly in some of these situations. Obviously not as dire and horrible, but still something that you go like, oh, I'm not proud of that moment. Here it is. It's rubbed in my face again.
I definitely wrote some of myself into his character, because I felt like I've done that before too. And it's something you're not proud of as an adult. And at the time, you're just confused and just not wanting the spotlight to be on yourself, and
trying to save yourself, basically.
Right, exactly.
Dacre Montgomery, that's a story on its own, of course. You cast him as the douchebag, and he flies off straight after filming with you to North America to do The Stranger Things, where he's also the douchebag. I was wondering,
it's funny.
Yeah, is that a coincidence?
So the really funny thing is, Dacre is not at all like these characters. Mm-hmm. When I met him, he had his hair parted right here. He was like this proper Aussie boy, like very polite, Very attentive. You know who he reminds me of is Tom Cruise.
Okay.
In that he's this incredible character actor, but he's also this incredible lead. Like he's about to have a very big career very soon. I feel where he's so far he's gotten to play the kind of like character actor, but like he starred in the Power Rangers movie,
yes,
which probably didn't get to show off his abilities as a lead as much as another movie might. But I think he's going to be leading some movies soon, and I'm really glad because he's capable of doing both. And I don't think there's many actors who can do that. That's like Colin Farrell, Tom Cruise. Yeah. Who else is a really good character actor? Like he's
Leonardo DiCaprio.
So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think. Okay, so how did we create that character? I showed him early pictures of Channing Tatum.
Okay, yeah.
And like Tom Hardy's pictures on MySpace, if you remember those.
Vaguely, yes.
Tom Hardy has a MySpace page that will make you cry with laughter. It's pretty painful. It was like when he was younger. He just never deleted it. So, yeah, I was like, let's do that. And he was like, okay. And his process is very interesting. He didn't act it out. He kept calling me saying, what do you think you would do in this situation? And he kept kind of like bleeding me for information about his character. And I would kind of be like, I feel like he would do this. And I swear, for the amount of screen time he had, he probably spent as much time wanting information about his character as everyone else, which I really loved about him. I would say we probably spent about 8 hours talking about various aspects of his character. And then he came on set the first day. I had not seen him perform it yet. And he just went to character. And I was like, he's a completely different person right now. And it was so fun to watch. I really liked watching his process. I think, like I said, I predict he's going to have a very big, very soon, very big.
Let's hope so, because in Stranger Things he's also really stealing the show. Yeah.
And it's funny because with Stranger Things he did play just the same character with the mullet, but not really. Like he did shift it. I noticed some key differences, but it's funny. I think the reason he keeps getting cast for these roles is he's so handsome. He's so handsome, you want to punch him in the face. You look like a Abercrombie photo shoot, and there's definitely a side of like that you get when meeting him, because you're like, this is not fair. I don't want to be seen in public next to you because I'm going to look like Quasimodo. So I wonder if that's part of what's going on with casting him in these roles every time.
That's probably why they gave him the mullet, to make him a little bit less attractive.
Right. But that looked so George Michael to me. So I don't know.
Darn, yeah, there we go again.
And I guarantee you, he came up with the idea of doing the mullet. He's very creative. I had him choose his outfit. And so he went with like the money hat, if you remember the dollar sign, the baseball cap.
Yeah.
I made him wear a red jacket because I knew he was going to be the Red Power Ranger.
Oh, is that the reason? I thought it was because it sticks out against all the snow.
That too. I mean, I was going for bright. It was either going to be like a bright yellow jacket or bright blue or something, and I said red, A, because it foreshadows what's going to happen to him, and B, it's a foreshadowing of his next role.
Talking about Dacre, something happens to him. And I think that you personally do it wonderful, that in the two biggest things that are going to happen in the movie, let's put it there, that it is suggested. It's not in your face. Now, obviously, this is an indie movie, so certain things are, well, on a strict budgets, are not as easy. And you explained with Dacre in the behind the scenes, I think, that it was this whole rider with him going off to do Stranger Things, and certain things were not allowed.
do a stunt.
Yeah.
I was like, you have a very involved death scene.
Yes.
But we can't, how are we going to do this without doing any stunts? And we did it. It was on magic.
And you do it in a suggestive way, and that's basically only negative comments that I saw as far like, we don't see it happening. And I was like, but we don't see the other involved death happening as well. It's suggested. Right. When it happens, it's suggested. And to me, it's...
Oh, go ahead.
To me, it's such a powerful thing that what I can come up with in my imagination is something that is almost impossible to put on a screen. And I could have bet you, if I we talk about this movie 10 years from now, except that we're talking about it now, but that I could have sworn that I've seen the thing with the bucket happen. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you create this false memory. That's the word. Yeah.
Yes, but there's a reason why your brain did go there. I call it the Jaws effect. Jaws, the opening scene in that movie, is horrific. Yes. It is, it's visceral. It's bloody. It's kind of at night, so you're not seeing much, but you really are seeing a lot more than you were expecting to in the very first scene of the movie. It's traumatic in a way. So then, for the next hour in the movie, you never see anything happen, but you're imagining the consequences of what happened in that first scene. Yeah. So I think my favorite stuff is when you leave it up to the audience's imagination, but you do have to prime the pump a little bit. Yeah. So, for instance, I don't want to give away the moment. There's a moment with a pencil, and it happens very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
And you almost might forget the moment because it happens so quickly. But I've never been in a screening where everyone didn't jump back from that moment. Because it's pretty late. You know, as far as like the very first,
it's near the end of the second act. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll warn people. It's we're in the second half of the movie, and there's still been no violence or gore yet. Actually, there has been some violence. There's been.
Well, there's been a thing with a baseball bat before that.
No. The baseball bat comes afterwards.
Oh, I thought it was before that he hit. Yeah. That he slugged him, and then okay. Well.
So there's a moment when someone is defending themselves with a pencil.
Yep.
And anyhow, so if the movie up until now has been kind of like creepy, a little bit scary, but mostly just kind of funny, and then this thing happens, and it's not funny, and it's shocking. It all happens in one shot, so it looks real.
Yeah.
And it, like people jump back and gag.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that moment. I had to do it in one shot. Like I couldn't cut there because I wanted people to believe that moment, so that any future things that happened, if I didn't show it, they would subconsciously be like, yeah, but this is what's happening.
Oh, so you already planted the seed psychologically there. That is clever. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to plant the seed of this movie's dangerous.
Yeah.
But ultimately, my favorite movies don't show much.
True. Yeah.
But they do have to prime the pump to do that. So it's a balance. Guillermo del Toro talks a lot about this on Twitter too. If you ever follow him, he says it's best not to show things, but only if you've primed everyone's imagination ahead of time. There's some splatter gore hounds who literally, no matter how violent a movie is, they will never be pleased. So I'm not, not to say I'm not looking to, please them, but with Undocumented, people were like, that wasn't gross enough, and I was like, guys, I don't think you can go more than that.
Yes, well,
it was disgusting.
Yes,
but,
true.
If you're just go watch Faces of Death and go jerk off if you need to that or whatever.
There are two movies that made me cringe, and that is The Devil's Reject.
Right.
Especially the rape scene in the motel with the face mask. Yep. And, Undocumented. I go like, oh my God, that is just,
Same editor.
Yeah. Oh, really?
My editor on Undocumented was Rob Zombie's editor.
Wow, cool. Well, look at that, people. That's a new one here. Sweet. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I agree with you. I think it's better when you suggest, and don't just not show anything. You show details that make your imagination go, oh, yeah. That's to me.
Yeah. Wow, clever. Now you moved to Australia for 2 whole months of shooting. So you pick up.
I was in Australia for 9 months.
9 months. Oh, you even did the post-processing there as well. Wow.
Post, pre-production, everything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
It's pretty fun.
Well, that was actually what my question ties into. Your partner is at home. You're living halfway across the world.
My partner came with me.
Oh, he came with you. Oh, awesome. Okay, so that makes it a lot easier. Yeah. I was like, how do people do that? Being so far away from home with.
It's a relationship killer.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it. But I was very lucky in that he was between jobs at the time, so he was like, I'll just come with you.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And we put all of our stuff in storage and moved to Sydney, and by the end of those 9 months, I didn't want to come back.
Did they pull any pranks on you, being the Canadian guy off in a foreign country?
You know, I'm surprised more pranks didn't happen because Australians are the most wickedly humored people. Yeah. No, there weren't many pranks. You know, it was for as funny as Australian people are, they're also incredibly hardworking when it's time for work, and so we were. I was pretty nose to the grindstone for those 9 months. Like it was pretty hectic. Yeah, I still had some time on weekends to enjoy myself. We made some pretty amazing friends who we still talk to pretty frequently. And actually, one of them's having a big birthday this summer and going to be doing like a trip around the world, and we're going to go to Yosemite together. Oh, sweet! When we get in LA, so yeah, it was. Like I said, I didn't want to move back. I really, really loved Australia.
Oh, sweet!
So don't go there unless
you're planning to stay.
Like that internal conflict going on.
Wow. Working in Australia, you said already they are very hardworking people. That's how I remember them as well. Very professional. Is it different than filming in the US?
People work to live in Australia, and people live to work in the US.
Yes. Yeah.
Where, you know, you'll have 12-hour days on set in the US. Sometimes it'll go 13, 14 hours. Yeah. And people don't usually bat an eyelash. In Australia, we had 10-hour days. And if we even asked for 30 minutes of overtime, the entire crew got to vote. And if they didn't want to do it, we couldn't do it. Yeah. So, with Undocumented, we probably went an hour overtime every day just because we didn't have that many days and we were trying to pull it off. With Better Watch Out, we shot in 30 days, and I actually shot fewer hours for Better Watch Out than I did in Undocumented, even though we had 25 days in Undocumented. I only had 90 minutes of overtime for the whole film.
Oh, wow.
And that was hard to get because everyone was like, I want to go surfing. So everyone's very professional, very hardworking, but also it's like, all right,
let's get out.
Hours, come on.
Barbecue and surf.
And sometimes that was frustrating for me because we would get behind schedule. But then another part of me was very thankful for that because, you know, usually the director suffers tremendously and gets very little sleep. And I found myself getting at least 6 hours every night, which didn't happen on my first film. So yes. I was as grumbly as I might have been about it, I think I was also very thankful that I was able to have a bit of a life even during the shoot.
Yeah, and enjoying Sydney though.
Oh, not just Sydney. Our friends every weekend would be like, hey, let's go drive to this place. And we'd go stay at a house 2 hours south or 2 hours north. Yeah. We saw the whole coast. It was...
That's really how they are. They really encompass you in their world, in their life. It's they're very friendly people.
Actually, you just inspired me when you said encompass. our Australian friends, they imposed themselves on us. I'd be like, guys, I can't this weekend. Like, I have to work on the movie. And they'd be like, we're showing up at your house at 10 a.m. If you aren't outside, we're going to drag you out and pull you into the car.
Yeah.
And they just impose themselves. And I would be like, guys, I really can't. Like, I have to. And I'd be like, okay, fine, let's go.
Oh, that's funny.
And people aren't as imposing in that way in the U.S.
No.
And sometimes I kind of wish they were, because there's something. There's a feeling of being loved where people say, I don't care what you have to say, I want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
That's a really nice feeling.
Yeah. This being a low-budget film, you need to sacrifice something as a director. Is there something that you had to sacrifice and you go like, I wish I could have put that in?
Oof. We cut a lot, but in hindsight, it was good things to cut. I was lucky. I got, like, the movie, everything that happened in front of the camera was exactly what I wanted to happen. This is very rare.
That's really rare.
Certainly didn't happen to me on my first film. But everything turned out the way I wanted it to in the movie. All the sacrifices we had to make were about the conditions of doing the movie. So when we were looking for sound stages to shoot the film in, there was only one sound stage in all of LA that wasn't taken, and it was the largest stage at Fox. Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge had taken all other sets, but he was like, "Oh, that was too big and expensive. I don't want that."
Yeah.
So we were stuck with this incredibly giant soundstage that was very expensive, and we were not expecting to spend that much money.
Yeah.
So as a result, we shot in the dead of summer, and it was like 40 degrees Celsius on some days. It was awful, and the actors were under the lights and everything, and we could only afford 2 hours of AC every day. So we do it at like 15-minute spurts, and it was really surreal because the entire yard outside the house was covered in fake snow. So it looks like it's supposed to be really cold, but you're feeling muggy and sticky and you're sweating. And you're like, oh, it's so weird. I'm surrounded by cold-looking things, but it made you go...
A disconnect.
It felt like jet lag or something because it was so visually disconnected from what you were feeling. The poor actors, my poor teenagers, were wearing sweaters and winter jackets under the film lights in summer heat with no air conditioning. I was constantly asking them, like, can I put, like, I bought some Ziploc bags, and I was like, I will put ice down your back and so on if you want. And they're like, we're fine, we're professional. I loved them so much. They I feel like they could have complained a lot more about that, and they didn't. And I was very thankful for that because I was stressed out. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't imagine what they were going through with makeup and hair, needing to not be sweaty looking.
What is up next for you as a director? What you can talk about, of course.
I have my next project. It's my first supernatural film, which I'm really excited about. It's also a way bigger budget than what I've dealt with before, which is why it's taken so long. Because when you're playing in the big boy leagues, it's harder to find the financing. But we're finally beginning to do that. I can't say who I'm working with because it hasn't been announced yet, but they're big and awesome. What else can I say? It's so if Better Watch Out was like my twist on the home invasion movie, this next one is going to be a twist on the possession story that you've never seen.
Wicked. Wow. Yeah. I'm curious. Definitely one theater seat sold.
Yeah, there's a creature, like we're gonna have to go full on CGI, like SFX. It's gonna be It's going to be full on, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Sweet. So you're really, really busy right now, so I won't hold you up any further. As a final notice, sell your movie to the Dutch and Belgian audience, and then we'll let you go back to your supernatural project.
Okay. I'm not a good salesman because, well, that's weird. I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a good salesman. I'll say this. So better watch out, a Christmas horror comedy. It is infinitely better the less you know about it. So really, you've already been exposed to too much in listening to this interview. And I forgive you for that, but you have to promise me one thing in return, which is you do not watch the trailer. And when you do watch it, you watch it with as many friends as possible. And you might be saying, wait, don't you want each of us to rent it or buy it so that you make more money? I say, fine, go rent it and buy it individually, but watch it together because the movie is always better with a group. Because the movie is going to be playing with your expectations, especially a loud group. You got a loud group of friends who like is vocal during a movie. The Better Watch Out is a much more fun view. Not to say that you're not going to have fun watching it by yourself, but I'll say this. I've watched this movie in probably 30 film festivals at this point, and it's always been most fun with an audience. When I watch it with like a couple friends, it's still fun, but because you're by yourself or just a couple people, you don't want to be as vocal. So, sorry, that was long-winded, but watch it with friends, don't watch the trailer, and find me on Twitter and let me know what you think, because I love hearing feedback from horror fans.
Awesome. Chris, thank you very much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. We wish you all the best with your new project, and we'll definitely go and watch that new secret movie of yours.
I hope an announcement will be happening soon. It should be. So
awesome.
I'll post that on Twitter and everything else. Usually, by the way, Twitter's the best place for me. I'm just at Peckover, so just at my last name.
At Peckover. We'll put that in the description. Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Chris. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.